The League of the Genuine Conversations is back with me, Fred Mwema, your host, the only show on the planet that discusses the important but often ignored subject of counterfeiting. This week, we continue our programming fresh from a big event that we held, a training workshop for magistrates and prosecutors. These are members of the justice, law and order sector. We had this training courtesy of the USAID Feed the Future program. It was identified that these were key stakeholders in the fight against counterfeits. And during the training, we had a keynote address, which was given by none other than the Executive Director of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority of Kenya. And with me in the studio is Dr. Robbie Njoroge, the Executive Director of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, to come and share with us perspectives and his views on how the conference was and how we can deepen our collaboration on the fight against counterfeits. Dr. Robbie, once again, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
2 months ago, I was hosting you, or rather you were hosting me in Nairobi.
Yes.
And I hosted you on this show at the Eka Hotel, where we had just had a successful meeting. And you did promise that we were going to collaborate and work together. It looks like you are a man of your word, because 2 months later you are in Kampala and you are helping to facilitate a training for magistrates and prosecutors. How is this collaboration between the SCA and ACN shaping up?
I must say that this is shaping up quite well, because as we said when we met the other time, it was important for us to advance the cause of fight against counterfeit, because as we said, this is a cross-board problem and no single entity, whether in Kenya, whether in Uganda, whether in Tanzania, or elsewhere in Africa, can win this war on their own. And it's on that premise that I am here in Uganda to try to advance that conversation, and more so to strengthen the willingness of engaging with like-minded partners like yourself in order to fight and eradicate the problem.
Doctor, before we went for the conference, you had a full day of meeting with government of Uganda agencies. We had a meeting with the Uganda Communications Commission.
Yes.
I think that was our first meeting, and you had the things that the commission is doing. We're working with them on the fake phones. What did you pick from that engagement, that meeting with the UCC? How does it mirror the efforts of fighting fake phones in Kenya?
What I must say is that that initiative is an eye-opener. One, on the role of private sector players like yourself and government agencies like UCC. It demonstrates that to fight this menace, we must join hands, and I was very much impressed by the campaign that
Clear.
Yes, that you and UCC,
yes,
are implementing, Clear, trying to get off the market the counterfeit phones. And the impression that I have, if that program is successful here in Uganda, nothing stops us from having similar kind of engagement in my country, Kenya. Because if, for instance, you are going to eradicate the counterfeit phone and fake phones in Uganda, the same phones can also get their way into Kenya, because that would be like a dumping ground. If we had a similar program ourselves without involving Uganda, similarly that would happen. But the first thing that I have seen is that there is possibility of working together in what we are calling PPPs, public partnership.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that we are embracing in a big deal in areas that maybe we have not thought before. Meaning that even the area of counterfeiting, there is a room, there is a space that we need to exploit.
So are you saying that in Kenya, it is free, no action is being taken to check, or no even promised action is there on the fake phones? You've not started the program with the communications?
No, what we are doing it as an anti-counterfeiting agency, authority, and that is on the basis of enforcement.
What are you doing? You're grabbing the phones, yes, which are imported?
Yes, once we identify a fake phone, we confiscate them and we prosecute the people who are involved. But now, whatever now
the importers or the consumer?
Anybody found with a fake phone. Sometimes even importers. If you're able to identify the importers, which will be much better when you are able to do that issue from upstream instead of downstream, so that you nab it at the source. That is our strategy, so that you don't have to disturb now the retailer, whatever they are doing for their work, but you prevent, because we are more of a preventive. But having said that, what great lessons I learned here is that we are able to work in a collaboration with like private sector players, and we move away from mortared brick kind of a strategy to emotive kind of campaign.
Using soft power.
Soft power. And I think that is something that we have learned here, and we are going to do something once.
The use of soft power involves an engagement with the consumer. So whereas you say that you are looking at the source as the importers, but actually the source of all problems is with the consumers who provide a market for these imported fake phones. So what plans are you having as SCA or government of Kenya to engage the Kenyan consumer?
Part of that is having a campaign to educate the consumers on the negative impact of counterfeit goods within the market. One would be to understand what drives the consumers to consume fakes in the country. Then we are able to come up with measures that are likely now to persuade the consumers, because we are going to use persuasion method of telling consumers, if you do ABCD, this is likely to happen. And we show them that this DRA can affect your health, can affect your safety, can affect the economy even at the government level, because once you have the fakes within the economy and they're circulating, whatever is being circulated, most of the time they are outside the tax system.
You said, I remember the meeting with UCC, that you would be collaborating with SCN in pushing this agenda. Are you considering working with SCN on this public engagement to sensitize on the drivers of counterfeiting, seeing as we here at the SCN have identified the drivers under Dankani? Can you speak to that? Do we see more engagement and work together between the two organizations?
Yes, that one is visible and possible, because Anti-Counterfeit Authority is a creature of Anti-Counterfeit Act of 2008, and one of the mandates stipulated in that act is to collaborate with national, regional, and international organizations involved in fight against counterfeit. And I think ACN rightfully fall within that matrix. And not only that, we are also going to reach out to other government agencies back in Kenya, like Communications Authority, so that we can have a conversation around eliminating fake phones and containing the issues of e-waste, which is becoming an issue of concern. And having said that, Like your model of Dakani, where you are talking about the issues of differentiation. That is, consumers are unable to differentiate what is fake and what is real. It's something that I do believe that we are going to imbibe and use well in our campaign. I think you have also talked about the issues of affordability. Why people get to the counterfeit is because sometimes they are made to believe that they are affordable, and yet they
And yes, cheap things can be
yes, they are
expensive.
more expensive. Cheap is expensive. The issues of normalcy. People are used to this counterfeit from time to time, and that it's become like a norm. And once it becomes like a norm, that is a behavior that now continually get ingrained in the psyche of the consumers. And those are things that from where we sit, definitely we are going to work very hard in order to create that awareness.
Dr. Robbie,
Yes.
you are a government agency.
Yes.
Aren't you hindered in your collaboration dealing with private entities like the SCN in pushing the agenda? Do you only work with government agencies, or you can also work with private entities?
No, we work with the private agencies as well. Like in Kenya, my board, we have representation from Kenya Association of Manufacturers,
Which is private.
which is a private entity. We work with also with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Kenya. We also engage with the private investigators because they give us some information on this. We also work with other agencies beside working closely with also government entities. And so even working with entities like ACN here in Uganda is part of our mandate that has been donated to us by the law.
You say that Kenya has one of only 2 or 3 constitutions in Africa that recognizes and protects intellectual property at a constitutional level. And the Kenyan constitution, just like the Ugandan constitution, is for the people, it's made by the people.
Yeah.
And the power is drawn from the people. So I think that's sufficient basis for you to actually anchor your engagements from the private sector, which is generally the public. And since SCN is drawn from the consuming public, I hear you when you say that it would make a lot of sense actually to have collaboration there.
True.
Because if you only collaborate with government agencies, then you'll be left hanging.
Yes.
You don't have a base.
True.
Doctor, we're going to take a break. When we return, we shall talk about the other visits that you had to the other government agencies, and then dive into the conference itself for the training of the magistrates and prosecutors. Welcome back to the second segment of the League of the Genuine Conversations. I'm here with Dr. Robbie. Robbie.
Robbie. Not Ruby.
Robin.
Not Robbie.
Robbie.
Robbie is
an indigenous name?
It's an indigenous name gotten from my great-great-grandfather. So it's nothing to do with Robin.
It means you're Robin Hood or something
No,
like that.
Robin Hood is from Europe.
This is from
from
Nairobi.
Indigenous. From,
Okay. Dr.
Kenya.
Robbie Njoroge,
Yes.
Executive Director, Anti-Counterfeit Authority. You have been to Uganda before.
Yes,
We are
I've
the
been.
land of plenty, land of food. I'm sure you've been having a lot of food in these last few days here.
The city look clean everywhere, and very impressive. And the people, they are friendly, and the food is also great. What I've done is just a comma, meaning that I'm continuing. I'll come
You're
back
continuing.
very soon.
I hope you're going to carry some food back home because we
try,
have a lot of variety.
Whether the guys at the airport will allow it, if they allow, they'll do that.
Back to the discussion.
Yes.
We visited 3 ministries.
Yes.
At Foreign Affairs, we had a meeting with
The PS.
the PS Foreign Affairs. We had representatives from the Ministry of East African Affairs of Uganda and also the Ministry of Trade. What was your impression of the interplay between these government ministries, Foreign Affairs, Trade, East African Affairs, in providing a tremendous shot in the arm to the fight against counterfeits? You feel they have a role to play?
I must first for thank the PS, the Minister of Trade and the Foreign Affairs, for giving us that opportunity to have a discussion with him, as well as the representation from the Minister of Trade here and the Ministry of East African Community. And I think in our conversation, one thing was clear, that counterfeit is a diplomatic issue, is an issue that can also affect trade. And how does it hinder trade? Because of so many other variables that Mr. Pierce was able to enumerate. And it was agreed that Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all the East African countries, they have a role to play in ensuring that the League of Genuine, like what you have been saying, can take root. Of course, like in Kenya, the minister in charge of trade has been on the forefront saying that we need to promote local exports, whatever is getting out of Kenya. And promoting local export entails protecting their intellectual property rights, protecting our manufacturers, protecting your manufacturers here in Uganda. And particularly once we are able to protect that, then East Africa matrix comes in. How do we ensure that we grow our intra-East African trade so that we are able to trade between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, DRC, and by the time when we are doing that, we are doing these using not fakes, but genuine products that can leave a lasting impression on consumers, ensuring that we protect their safety, ensuring that we protect their health, and more importantly, ensuring that our sister countries receive and get adequate foreign exchange.
You see, many people don't understand, in my view, that even these trade issues, for example, that we've been having between Kenya and Uganda, whether it is Kenya claiming that the sugar that we export is not Ugandan, is from Brazil, and we are repackaging it, whether there is a claim that the eggs are not fit for consumption or whatever, those quality issues, all those issues touching illicit trade or grey goods, is still very much in the subject of counterfeiting.
Yes.
Because anything to do with dumping, anything to do with illicit trade, anything to do with the quality of the products is still counterfeiting. But we do not have enough conversation on this subject of counterfeiting at the Council of Ministers in Arusha, at the East African level. At the summit, I have not had a declaration or a statement from our presidents, the 5 presidents of the region, putting to the forefront the subject of counterfeits. Do you see it that way as well?
Yes, I see it that way because the current president, His Excellency William Ruto, and his minister in charge of trade, that is Honorable Kuria, they are at the forefront saying that protection of our indigenous industries is paramount, and we cannot move away from that. And I think that at the right time, the president and Waziri, they will be able to bring that conversation
to push the agenda
and to push that agenda.
But don't you think SCA and ACN, we need to push this to become an East African issue?
Yes,
so that we have, as a common market, we have a common voice.
That's true. That's true, and we agree because whatever we are doing, it's for the greater good and the interest of East African, both at the consumption level, both at the policy level, the production, the industry, and both as a matter of ensuring that we also abide with certain international obligations.
Standards,
and standards.
Dr. Robbie, we also visited the Uganda Registration Services Bureau.
Yes.
The people charged with the mandate of registering our intellectual property, the trademarks, the copyright, the patents, registering the businesses, and enforcement as well. The Registrar General did mention to you that Uganda was in the process of presenting afresh the anti-counterfeit goods bill. The previous one having been withdrawn with the involvement of the anti-counterfeit network.
Sure.
How can Uganda benchmark on the Kenyan anti-counterfeit law to help us pass our anti-counterfeit law?
What I'll say, and I was impressed very much by Registrar General because she was forthright, and the proposition that she presented by saying that you are in the process of enacting anti-counterfeit goods bill. That would be great, because it means that now we'll be comparing an apple with another apple, not like the current situation whereby on part of Kenya you have got anti-counterfeit law, but when you come to Uganda we don't have that. Yet Kenya and Uganda, they are conjoined together like Siamese twins, so that whatever happens in either part of the border definitely affect the others. So I think we have an opportunity to learn from one another, and as Registrar General noted, should be willing to come to Kenya. We have also an engagement on how we can collaborate, and I think we are open to collaboration, so that as the way the President of Kenya has been saying, that we move from one border point to zero border point. By the time when we're having a zero border point, it means that our country's laws will have been harmonized, both in Kenya and Uganda, and we think that that is the right direction that Uganda has taken, and we welcome that move, and we urge the members of parliament to expedite on that.
You did mention that you are organizing a regional conference in June next year in Nairobi. Can you just tell us quickly what it's about and whether it is going to help to put on the agenda some of these harmonization issues on the anti-counterfeit approaches in the region?
Definitely, that is a conference that we are having. We are calling it Regional Conference on Anti-Counterfeiting. We are planning to have it in June in Nairobi, with the purpose of blending the issues of practice and theory, because we will be asking our researchers at the universities to give us statistics, to give us critical insight into the menace of anti-counterfeiting, not only in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, but even at Africa regional level. From there now we'll be able to come up with clear directions on where to move, so that with those discussions we are able now to engage with the policymakers at the regional level, so that we can have one common stand and approach in the fight against counterfeiting. Yes.
You also made, you had, I think you had dinner here.
Yes.
With the leadership or the principal of Makerere University Business School.
Yes.
What was the agenda, and what do you hope to achieve with the university? What do you want to do?
One of our functions as an authority is to carry out research and also to carry out surveys and inquiries into this subject. And arising from that analytical approach, we are able to come up with actionable data, because we also want to ensure that the fight against counterfeiting is premised on actionable data, data-driven.
Are you saying we don't have sufficient data on counterfeits in East Africa?
Currently, we are not doing well, but we believe that we are going to get there, so that we are able to inform the government on the preference of counterfeiting on one hand. Even the brands that we have, they are able to come to us, and this one is meant also to increase what we are calling foreign direct investment in the region, because that is something that we are very keen on. So this conference, for instance, with the universities, because we want to tap into other universities, particularly here in Uganda, we have Makerere University. We're also going to be approaching other universities in Kenya, so that we can have like a twin kind of a program.
Twinning program, yes.
Yes, twinning program that will entail carrying out research, particularly in Kenya and Uganda, and see what are the prevalence rate, what are the issues.
But doctor, in one of the meetings, I don't remember which one, you gave some good statistics on the prevalence of counterfeits. Maybe you can repeat them now. the most counterfeited product and so on.
Yes.
Tell us those statistics. And now that you're calling for research, do you doubt your own statistics?
No, we don't doubt our research.
But what are the statistics, first of all?
This is for Kenya, but we also want to see
for the region.
What is happening in
what is the prevalence?
Prevalence, for instance, in Kenya.
Mm.
When you look at electronics, and electronics it include mobile phones, and other devices, computers, start at about 79%, meaning that for every 100 phones that are on the market,
79 are fake.
They are not coming from the original producers. And this is an increment from about 66.6% in 2014.
So 79% is which year?
This is 2020. So it means that because of the level of consumption of those telephone gadgets and those electronic gadgets, because consumption has gone higher.
So Kenyans are talking too much CS on the phone. Everyone wants a phone.
Yes,
it's like a social status symbol.
Not even as a status symbol. A phone has become like part of a man or a woman in current environment. You can't
like oxygen.
It's like oxygen. Remember the issue of Dakani? Affordability. Maybe what they are able to afford is a bit cheap, but usually those cheap phones, they also have a lot of hazards.
So the uptake of phones in Kenya has gone up?
It is higher. And I think we'll be able to look, and I can refer you to Communication Authority of Kenya. I don't have those statistics, but they normally have those statistics saying this is the uptick in terms of penetration.
Is the problem that the original equipment manufacturers, the brands, are not aggressive enough to sell their genuine, they are negligent, and they allow the fakers to come and eat into the market?
I think they have also neglected that aspect, because if they are willing, they can come and engage with us, come up with the strategies on how to combat the vice. Sometimes even when you are enforcing, sometimes you are unable to differentiate between the genuine and...
You go into the market, you get a catchy of phones,
yes,
and you don't know whether it's genuine or fake.
Yes, you may not, unless now we also have the brand owners, because we have also training that we call brand identification training, that they are able to tell you, for you to identify this is what needs to be done. The others are pharmaceuticals. They are also on high alert. I may not have the exact percentage, because mostly we have also left this to Pharmacy and Poisons Board, because that is another body that is mandated to ensure that we don't have fake counterfeit medicine in Kenya. Others I can also talk is alcoholic and beverages and cigarettes. Almost
alcohol.
Yes, alcohol.
Because I have some information. Kenyans are bigger drunkards than the Ugandans, or the vice versa. You know, our president here said drunkards are a threat to themselves. I don't know if you heard that.
Yes. Drunkards sit close to one another. They speak with saliva coming out of their mouth. They are a danger to themselves.
You think the East Africans are getting drunk on counterfeit beer, or it is the genuine beer?
Of course, we have got international brands within the East Africa region. We have breweries, a number of them, which are doing a good job. But what you're saying that they are intellectual property, right? Because if today I'm manufacturing alcoholic drink, that does not meet certain standard. Like in Kenya, the standard prescribed by Kenya Bureau of Standards, or even within the East African standards, now that you have got in East African standards. And then they use the similar packaging to conceal and to dupe the consumers to consume those.
So this fake alcohol in Kenya, is it imported or locally made?
Usually it's locally made. Like there is a case that was concluded in August. That is number E 292 of 2022. They had were confiscated in an area called Eldoret. I may not be able to say those names on the live TV. But the case went to the court. We were able to prosecute it successfully. And they were found guilty, the people who were infringing on the trademark. And they were fined about 500,000 Kenya shillings. And the magistrate was very good in terms of making that decision, because she mentioned that that type of behavior, the counterfeit, are so dangerous that they are likely to cause a lot of harm on part of the consumers. And that is a conversation we're also having with the magistrate and prosecutors in Kenya to ensure that once we get the perpetrators,
put them through the process, due process.
Yes, and impose imprisonment.
So these fellas were the culprits. Were they asked to pay a fine or imprisoned?
They were told to pay 500,000.
500,000. That's about 5,000.
Yes, around $5,000, or an imprisonment.
But that is still small.
Yes, or an imprisonment of 1 year. But I think these are some of the successful cases that we are having. And currently, we're also having the issues of cigarettes that are meant for export. They are coming back into the market. And that is an issue that we're also working very closely with the BAT and other organizations that are
to see that you check it. Doctor, we need to take a break, but you ended at the point of talking about the prosecutors and magistrates.
Yes.
We are going to the third segment where we're going to talk about the training workshop where you facilitated of magistrates and prosecutors here in Uganda. We're back with the third and last segment of the League of the Genuine Conversations. I'm here with Dr. Robbie, Executive Director, Anti-Counterfeit Authority of Kenya. Doctor, you made a keynote address at the awareness training for magistrates and prosecutors on counterfeits.
Yes.
What was your impression of the conference, of the training? Have you organized such trainings in Kenya for magistrates and prosecutors? What's your takeaway?
My take is that I was impressed. The room was lit. The room had so many participants coming, both from the judiciary here, the judicial officers, the magistrate, and the prosecutors, and I could see the energy.
Even police was there.
And the police, the entire law enforcement ecosystem, the police themselves. We had representation, I think, from the judiciary, representation from the Office of Director of Prosecution, as well as the players and the owners of brands. They were also there, and the development partners like USAID and the Feed the Future program. And I think that is something good, including we had also the academician. Yes, and also to answer to your question is that yes, at Anti-Counterfeit Authority in Kenya, we are continually engaging with the Kenya judiciary, the Kenyan police. We are also engaging with the Association of Manufacturers, the brand owners themselves. So it's something that we have been doing. And like in the next couple of 1 week, we'll be training our officers at DCI Academy on the issues of counterfeiting. I think I've arranged to train about 25 inspectors on the issues of counterfeiting. And in the course of training, we're also going to have the police officers. We also had a training organized by the United States Embassy in September, where we were able to train a number of officers, drawn from the Kenya Police and drawn from other enforcement agencies like Kekobo. We had Pharmacy and Poisons Board. We had Kenya Industrial Property Institute, among others.
So you feel this awareness training for judicial officers, prosecutors can have impact?
It does.
In fighting counterfeits?
And it will. Because one, prosecutors, they are the one who write charge sheet. And once you write a charge sheet, you have to ensure that you have evidentiary threshold that you can sustain before a court of law. And how do you do that when you don't yourself understand the law, what it talks about, what are some of the quick wins that you can use to convince a judge? And again, in terms of magistrate, because they're the one who are going to interpret the law
evidence and the law,
apply the facts as they are making a determination whether this is a counterfeit or non-counterfeit, I think it's crucial for them to understand. Because there is a book that I read some time back ago, which was saying that what they did not teach you in Harvard
Yes.
as a manager. Because you get to Harvard and then you're coming to manage people, there are so many things that they don't tell you. There are those soft issues that nobody is going to tell you about. So when you read law at law school, there are many things that you read, but when it comes to the issues of application, there are so many emerging issues that you need to keep yourself abreast and continually improving on them. And I think that's exactly what you have done here. And that's very commendable.
In my presentation to the magistrates and prosecutors,
Yeah.
I did state that we viewed them first and foremost as consumers before we view them in their official capacity as magistrates or prosecutors. Did that sit well with you?
Yes, it does. Because
I was taking away their titles.
Because when it comes to counterfeiting does not know about the titles. It doesn't know about your social standing. It does not know.
It doesn't
about
care,
your
actually.
status. It cares less because when you consume, there is no demarcation saying that this is for the lowly, this is for non-professionals.
We don't have markets where
We don't
prosecutors
have
go,
stratification.
or malls for judges only.
No. We
go in the same place.
Once these products get into the market, they will be consumed by all of us. So it's that responsibility of those who are involved, with the responsibility of ensuring that their fellow countrymen do not consume this product. The responsibility to say that this decision I'm making is not only going to help the so-called, sometimes you can have a generic word like consumer. It's going to help me as a person. It's also going to help me, the next door neighbor. You remember like that case of you have to ensure that the next door person does not get affected, like that person who did some, was it a beverage, and there was a snail inside there, and the court ruled saying that there is that responsibility that has to be on the part of the person who is producing that. And I think that one also mirrors directly into those people who have been given the responsibility of making those decisions. As you are making those decisions, they benefit you as a person and they benefit the next door neighbor.
Irrespective of your
Yes.
official title.
Yes.
Some of the comments that we got at the conference, I think some prosecutors were pointing out the issue of evidence, that you see the evidence gathering is an issue, and then we had some magistrates also saying that you see, don't blame the courts for releasing the counterfeiters. If you don't investigate the case properly and bring the evidence before a court, the court will not give you the conviction that you want.
Yeah.
So what is a bigger problem? The evidence gathering or the dealing with the evidence that has been gathered, that has been brought? Is it a problem of gathering the evidence, or the problem is dealing with the evidence when it's in court? Which presents a bigger problem?
I think it's a twin problem that need to be looked at all the different angles, because when you talk about the evidence gathering or the way you store that evidence, and remember, in the criminal cases, they're based on the principle of beyond reasonable doubt, because they say that it's better to release a guilty person than to convict an innocent man. And I think based on that, because we are countries under the rule of the law, that operating under the rule of the law, then it means that we must at the same time ensure that the evidence that we collect is collected in a way that is not going to be tampered with. And number two, how do we ensure that it is well protected? There comes a catch-22 situation. You find that we may not have the ability sometime to understand this is a counterfeit, sometimes we require more investment into it. And I think that is the direction that we're going. So that we even have special laboratories that can be used by the experts, subject experts.
You have them in Kenya?
We currently we are using Kenya Bureau of Standards, but Kenya Bureau of Standards is only on the standards, not on the issues of like a logo or trademark or a design, only on the content. Now that's what we are using, but we are saying that we need to move beyond that, so that we can even have specialized laboratories. The other issue is on how do we keep the the evidence itself. How do we store, for example, confiscated goods? We do that in the depots, but again, we also have we are resource constrained because we don't have enough
storage, even
of
ability to dispose of safely.
Yeah, when you want maybe to dispose of or to destroy, that one can also present a serious
problem. So is it the solution
what
probably?
We are doing is a PPPs, like what we are doing in Kenya. Currently, we have engaged with the BAT Kenya, and BAT, we're in the process of getting a cigarette destruction machine. And this is being donated to us by the BAT, meaning that we are able to ensure that whatever is being destroyed does not also affect the environment.
The environment. But don't you think, Doctor, it is better to work with the Ports Authority not to actually allow the import into the country so that you don't have to go through the expense of destroying it? Why don't you just, through port surveillance, check the product at the point of entry? If it is fake, ask the ship to take it back. So you don't let it in and then you incur a lot of expense and damage your environment, destroying it. Don't you think we should employ port surveillance more to reject these products at the point of entry?
Yes, that is one of the strategies that we are implementing through a program called recordation, where all the importers importing into the country, they will be required to register with us, to record with us their respective trademarks and industrial designs, to ensure that if something that is not recorded with us happen to get into the port of entry, then we will have...
It's rejected there and then.
We reject it at the source, so that we don't have to wait until it gets the downstream, and then we are starting to chase it. That become like a cancer that has already metastasized, and it will be very difficult for us to be able to treat that. But having said that, we also have the issue of internally generated counterfeits. I've just
they are faking cigarettes also.
Yes, internally. Or cigarettes that are meant for export, and they are denying government a lot of money. We may not exclusively say that you're not going to destroy counterfeit, because they are always going to get some. Some of them are also getting into the country due to our porous borders with our neighboring countries. We have Somalia on the other hand, with about 700 kilometers.
Doctor, for us here at the SCN, we believe that the system of preferring fines on a counterfeiter actually allows a culture of repeat offenders. Because if the culprit is caught with counterfeit goods and then they are fined, they will just pay the fine and get back to business. We were advocating at the conference for custodial sentence. What's the take of SCA on this?
Yes, a custodial sentence, as you said, can be more deterrent, can deter people from engaging in the practice of counterfeiting. Because again, you can tell somebody you pay this amount of fine, and they are going to pay it immediately, and they go back because they say this.
And even pay in advance for the next crime.
This does not affect my bottom line. Actually, meaning that even by the time when they are doing their counterfeiting, they are also putting within their margin some amount for fines. This I'm going to get. I'm going to sort myself in case I'm caught, in case I'm nabbed. and still at the end of the day, he's going to have his profits.
So you can push in Kenya for,
Yes.
for the custodial centers.
Custodial sentence, and more so, behavioral change. So
What
that-
about the proposal that the deputy DPP made when he was closing the training? You heard him saying that the government of Uganda is going to look into possibility of confiscating the counterfeiters' property or the proceeds from counterfeiting.
Yeah.
That property will be confiscated. Very much the way they do it for money laundering and all this. You think that is a good suggestion that can help us in the fight against counterfeiting?
Yeah, that is one of it, because like in Kenya, we have been confiscating that type of, but that alone will not eliminate.
But it's an additional measure.
It's an additional measure if you have not been doing it, but in itself alone cannot, because I think we need to look at counterfeiting as a way of moving from brick and mortar, and then we also get into the softer
Typical law
skills.
enforcement.
Yes.
Talk about softer. In the conference, half of the audience were women magistrates and prosecutors. Out of the 150 people, I think 70 or 80 were women. What do you think is the role of the woman in fighting counterfeits? Do they have a big role to play or a small role?
I think a woman has got the highest in terms of if you are going to apportion the responsibility for a woman is at the richer scale, up there. Because one, a woman in herself is the greatest consumer of goods. She's the one who
She's the purchasing officer
yes,
of the
is
home.
the purchasing officer, like procurement officer.
But some men do the purchasing.
Yes, but not at the level that women do. So that she's the one who is going to supermarket, she's the one who is preparing the food or any other type of a service. So it means that if she's the person who is consuming the highest, they are likely to go to the supermarket and they bring the fakes and
So
counterfeit.
the women are bringing fakes in our homes.
I'm not saying that they are bringing.
If
but
we have
they are-
fakes in,
they
if
are-
you have a fake in your home, who brought
Yes.
it? It's your wife who brought it.
But
Yeah.
she's not doing it knowingly.
Knowingly, okay.
She's doing it inadvertently. At the end of the day, you find her now with that type of a fake, and it's important for
She cooks for you ugali, sukuma wiki, but
Yes.
when it is all doubtful sauce,
Yes,
and then you end up having a tummy ache and all these issues.
that is
So
it.
your point is that
Yeah,
women, whether you're a magistrate, a prosecutor, if you're a mother,
yeah.
you play a big role
In
in
identifying and
in
fighting,
preventing counterfeits.
against counterfeiting.
As a father, as a man, your experience with counterfeits.
There are a number of them, because you go there, you buy your spare part for your vehicle, they are counterfeited. After 2-3 days, you go back again to the mechanic.
But you are the boss of the anti-counterfeit authority. The guys don't fear you, they still sell you fake tires or
But when I'm going
ads.
to...
Don't you go with your ID
No,
and say, hey,
no.
this is the boss of...
I'm a normal consumer within the economy. Remember
Start
we
showing
said,
your ID. Then they'll give you genuine.
that one can be done, but it's not practical. You cannot be going brandishing your ID that I'm...
To save yourself from the fakes.
But you know, we're also operating in trust, meaning that even those people who are doing it in our shops, in our stores, they are doing it, they are selling to us the genuine product. That is the premise that whenever you're going to a shop, because I'm not excluded from consuming fakes if they are in the market, because I cannot say that these goods are only meant for executive director. Goods within
Besides,
the
you cannot
economy.
differentiate it.
Yes, yes,
We're going to have a collaboration with the SCA and ACN.
yes.
Briefly, what is the collaboration going to be about? And then you'll end with the message to the viewers.
Thank you very much. I think I'm very delighted to be part of this conversation. And for me, what I can say is that at ACA in Kenya, we are willing and ready to engage with ACN As part of our mandate, the way I say that the mandate, one of our mandate is to collaborate with the national, regional, and international players within this ecosystem. And I do believe that ACN, whatever you are doing, is something that you can work on, and particularly on matters of creating awareness. Those are the areas that we like us to collaborate more with you. On the areas of capacity building, because we need to build capacity of law enforcers, the capacity of consumers, the capacity of enforcers or enforcement agencies. And then the other areas that I would believe that we can collaborate on is on the areas of research, coming up with data so that we can now be using that data to drive the agenda of anti-counterfeiting in East African region, in Kenya, Uganda, among other East African community members. Those will be my take in this. And my closing remark will be, you consumers, as you consume those goods, know that you have got single responsibility of ensuring that we kick out counterfeit in the market. That is not the job that ACN can do alone. That is not the work that ACA can do alone, but this is a collaborative effort. Once you do your part, and then the other agencies do their part, that will ensure that we have got counterfeit-free Kenya, Uganda, Africa, and the world. Thank you.
Can you join the League of the Genuine? This platform is the League of the Genuine.
Definitely, and that's why I'm here. I'm part of it. League of Genuine. Consume what is genuine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robbie Njoroge. That has been an interview. Hope you've enjoyed it with the Executive Director of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority of Kenya. We wish you a safe trip back, but this is home. Yeah. You are welcome, as always, especially to come and enjoy our food here.
Matoke.
Matoke, yes. And then we also come and take some ugali from that side. We've been having a recap of the training that we had with Dr. Robbie as well, for creating awareness to magistrates and prosecutors, that was held here in Kampala. So until the next episode, we would like to thank the audience, as always, for making a date with us every Friday. This is the only show that discusses the important but often ignored subject of counterfeits. If you enjoyed our program, please do share, put the notification to always be reminded when the next program will be coming. I would like to sign off by asking you not to be fake, to buy and sell genuine always.